It's Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.
Hot damn.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, hello, world. Yes. Yeah, it's just today's Wednesday, so I've got 3 more days before I do a comedy show.
Well, you better write some material.
Yeah. But yeah, there's quite a few people that are coming to this show. People either from Maggie's daughter and her boyfriend, and then they're bringing another couple, and then Maggie's neighbors, and then people from my quiz are coming as well. So, the last time I played King's Head in July of last year, I had 16 people that were there to see me. It looks to be about that same number this time. So, yeah, it's weird how, being a quiz master helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a master, and this is what I've discovered. Getting older and still getting in the game. There's something very different when you're young, when we're youthful, and we've got the exuberance. Hard day's night exuberance.
Yes.
And we're hitting the comedy clubs, and we're doing what we can, and we're having fun, and we're doing great, and there's all kinds of possibility. That's what we're focused on. Then when we get older and we've done all these things successfully, and we no longer have that exuberance, I think the only other position to take is the master. I don't mean, you know what I mean by master, like master class, like.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, for me, it's just revisiting, it's keeping myself acquainted with what I used to do 4 nights a week. And, I don't expect it to lead to anything major, but it'll just be a fun, it's now a novelty to do it because I'm quizzing and DJing and singing in the choir and singing with the blues band. So I've got a lot of things going on, and I'm still looking to try and form a cover band to just.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was impressed on me when Joshua, Raul from Rick and Ruby was here, and we, and he and his wife just kept going on about, you're so fucking talented. Why, that's the one aspect. If you're not doing stand up all the time, you still need to be pushing that musical ability, and it can't just be that one night a week singing 2 songs with a blues band. It's got to be, something where, and he wasn't wrong. I'm of that opinion that could I actually sing for 2 or 3 hours at a time?
Why do you have to sing for 2-3 hours at a time?
Or do a set of 15 songs or so, and then take a break and do another set of 15 songs.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're putting together a band, why not, when you're recruiting other members of the band, including guitarists, bassists, drummers, keyboardists, why not include one of those who's a singer and maybe a songwriter? And then that way the burden is, spread out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably what I'd be looking for is someone who could take some of the burden off me and add something different, that if I can just sing backup, that's fine and dandy too.
Yeah. I thought of that because, I have I have a musical background. And I was a drummer in high school and college, and then I was a singer-songwriter with a guitar in coffee houses and blah blah cafe, for years before I got into comedy. But I'm not as I can play like 30 songs really well, and I've written an equal amount, and yet I would be really unprepared to join a band, but I have thought of putting together my own band, is what I'm saying. Especially with the, you're in the Uber and the personality explodes and the customers are like,
Yeah, you probably have a lot of musicians that you drive around too. So
I meet them all the time. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just what stops me from doing it is, is the practical considerations. I'm doing so much other things right now, or trying to, and then do I want to set myself? See, I don't want to get involved in anything that's going to set me up for more heartbreak, like the
Mm,
comedy has given me. I don't want, that's why I'm not a full-time actor, an acting student. I've done all that, and I'm not saying I know everything about acting. I know this much about acting, and I've done it, and I've made money at it. But I'm I don't want to get into that world. I've been there where
mm.
you're constantly promoting, and you're in classes, and then you're analyzing your behavior during the
You
day.
you have to schmooze, you have to network, you have to,
Losing network more than comedians.
um, yeah. I, I remember the last couple of years that I lived in LA, I had a commercial agent, and
Oh yeah.
they sent me out on quite a few different things, and I would just, um, so there was only out of about 12 that they sent me on, there was only one that I got a call back. And I think I probably blew that one, but it was, to be singing "I Will Survive" with a Scottish accent. And I did it well enough the first time. They said, want to see him again. And I think I did it differently than I did it the first time, and I didn't get a second call back.
Oh,
Uh,
I have an audition story like that,
yeah.
and then I want to bring in our guests. When I had a voiceover agent when I first came back from the UK, and I had a Hollywood voiceover agent, and there was a commercial, a voiceover commercial for an animated burger for a burger company, right?
Mhm.
I don't know, Burger King maybe. And they had a character, which they show you a picture of, that was drawn of a burger with feet, legs and feet and hands and a face, and the character was a con man. Was the character? The idea was the character was saying to the customer,
Sounds like the Hamburglar. Which
very similar.
yeah.
And so the voice I chose to be the con man burger was talking to the customer online at the other fast food place, competition. I went,
Mm.
"Hey, buddy, hey, come on over here. Yeah, I got extra cheese. Oh, you'll love it. Yeah," that kind of voice.
Mm. Yeah.
It would, it was good voice, which is kind of, it's kind of like a sidekick gangster from a 1940s noir gangster film. So I get a call back with this, and I go into the audition, and in the room there's a dozen people watching, from directors to producers to the ad agency to the client representation of Burger King, and all these people. And the casting director says, "Okay, I want you to do a different voice
Mm.
than you did for the audition." That threw me.
Oh, yeah.
And so but here's what I should have done. Okay, so I did another voice. I remember what it was. From one of my English voices. Come on over here. The burger is much better over here. One of
Yes.
my many English voices. Um, and I didn't get the job. What I should have done, and this is me going back into a time machine, time zone, back when I had the opportunity, and I blew it, was I should have done what Hitchcock did with Psycho, which was when the studio said the shower scene was too violent, recut it. And he said, certainly. And then 2 weeks later, he sends back the same cut, and then they approved it.
Oh,
I
didn't
should
know
have
that.
said, "Oh, a different voice? Oh, okay. Hey, buddy."
Yeah.
I should have done that character, because they wouldn't have remembered. They had seen so many people, so I didn't get it. I'm absolutely positive I would have gotten it if I had lied.
Yep. There's so many of you know, I read for the voice of Roger Rabbit, believe it or not. Back
Really?
back
It
in the
went to Charles Fleischer, our coworker at the
Yeah.
comedy store.
But the voice that I used wasn't that far removed from what they went with Fleischer.
Well, let me hear it. Let us hear it.
Well, it was kind of like Pee Wee Herman, It was in that realm,
I love
but
it.
yeah, but I was trying not to sound like Pee Wee, but still have that in that same pitch, and I think what sold it for Charles Fleischer was when he did that please, just did those little speech patterns. I think that.
Oh yeah. I think he added something there that other people didn't even think of. That's always a good thing to do with auditions, is to add something and to take a chance, because they can always say, well, no, don't do it with standing on one leg. Oh, I thought standing on one leg. All right, let's bring on our guest.
Yes.
One of the original Comedy Store paid regulars, LUE DECK, was literally there from when Mitzi Shore built the club from a cash stuffed brandy snifter to an entertainment bonanza and indeed comedy Mecca. One of the original doormen, by the way, Mr. DECK has performed in in 24 countries and still works behind the scenes and on the boards in comedy clubs today. A wealth of comedy knowledge and indeed a friend to all. Please welcome Mr. LUE DECK.
Well,
Hello, Lou.
hi, boys.
Hello there.
Hi, Lou.
And we immediately lose Lou's voice.
And we can't hear you, Lou.
Okay, I haven't said much. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we still can hear you. You don't have to
miming?
say anything on this show. You can just sit back and read a book.
Thanks.
Yeah. Were you miming at first, and that's and we missed that?
No, I had an opening line and I blew it. You want to hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome to Comedy Dish. My name's LUE DECK. Glad to be with Stephen Allen Green and Brian Seff. Today, the Comedy Dish is full of joy. And that's
Okay.
what we want to pass on to the rest.
We
What we
love
have
you.
in our lives has thrilled us so much, we're still doing it.
Yeah. It's
How long have you been doing comedy there, LUE DECK?
I started in '75 in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And when did you move to LA then? You moved to LA in '76?
Yes, sir. Got a job from Ollie Joe Prater the second day I was in town as a stand-in Westwood doorman.
And did you have any aspiration of doing comedy at that point, or but you were already doing it in Austin? That's what you already said that, right?
Yeah, completely. I'm going to the University of Texas. I'm just about to finish my third year, which is my second year, but I learned to take equivalency tests, meaning they show you a test. If you pass it, you've taken the course. So suddenly I graduated up. I was going to go into law school. I was involved with the legal end of public access TV.
Oh, wow.
First started Communications Act of '74. And one day, somebody bought us a bunch of equipment. We're handing out Sony Portapacks to the Austin public to bring us 30 minutes of a TV show. That was public access in Austin in 1974.
All right.
Everybody broke their machines. So we started sending a guy out with them, and I was one of the guys. Pretty much setting the camera up, turning it on and off, trying to stage direct from behind the camera. And the host didn't show. So they insisted that I would host this silly show. It was a new law in Austin. If you produce electricity, the state has to buy it, or the electrical company has to buy it. So they stole a couple of bicycles and built a windmill on top of one of the 10-story dorms. And we're told to take it down. The legal students stepped up and brought a case. Lou, would you film it?
A case, like a law case, or a case of beer?
They filed, according to the Communications Act of 1974, which had 3 months old.
Okay.
But so the person, their snappy, wisecracky lawyer, got stage fright and quit right before the show.
I'm sorry, Lou, I'm a little lost here. What are we talking about at this point?
A story that led me to stand up.
Yeah, this is a public access TV show that the host bowed out of, and you suddenly had to step in.
Oh, I see.
I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
5 minutes into
sorry.
it, he told me, be more sarcastic. So I
Do you have any tapes of this show?
no, this is the first time I was ever on stage. In
Well,
19
wait a minute. We're talking about you hosting a public access show, meaning so the audience understands what we're talking about. Because
Yes,
the
public
British
access
audience
is
certainly won't
when-
understand what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Hang on, I'm talking. Only one of us can be heard. I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean, like I said before we went on the air, this technology doesn't really allow for overlapping conversation. So I'll try to keep it short. I just want to clarify something here. You hosted a public access show. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that our British audience knows what I'm talking about public access. That was the thing that we had in America back in the 70s and 80s, I believe, and it basically said it was to cable companies, that provided cable television.
Think of Wayne's World. That was meant to be
exactly. It's Wayne's World. So public access. You applied to this local station. You got to do a show. And most of these shows were talk shows, like Wayne's World, exactly. So you've done at least one of them as host, right? Being videotaped, right?
Correct.
So back to my question: do you have any tape of that anywhere?
Negative.
Yeah,
it's somewhere. I can do a trace and find out where it is.
Yeah, but you have to go.
I've learned with any video vaults or storage things that over time, the old technology won't transfer. So a lot of this was what they call black and white, reel to reel magnetic tape.
Yeah.
But just the general, sorry, Brian, just a general rule with technology advances and technology archaeology. What I figured out is that, if there's millions of people using this thing, you're not the only one. So that would mean that there's cottage industry somewhere. There's somebody living in a house in Akron, Ohio, who does this out of his basement. I promise you, it can be done. And plus, this is Hollywood. There's several houses that transfer all kinds of media to modern media to digital.
Yes, my brother had some of our family's home movies that were done on 8mm film, transferred to video.
Yeah,
and these were recorded in the 1960s. And also, we had some vintage porn from probably from the 1940s.
What do you recommend today? Oh, we've got some lovely vintage porn.
We
have. Well, give us an example. Well, we have breast of Gina Lollobrigida, surrounded by some lovely furry parsley.
Yeah, no, these were.
You like the cream sauce?
In fact, my dad had them, and my brother and I knew that they were there, and so we would have friends of our. My parents were always going out on the weekend, so we'd have a bunch of guys over and just watch these movies that were made, well before we were born, and
8mm.
They were 8mm black and white porn films.
Hey, speaking of porn films, Brian, we're going to go to our pub quiz, first one. But Brian, I want to make a note of it before I forget. Are we going to do Comedy Dish at the Edinburgh Fringe this year? Have we discussed this?
We discussed it briefly. I guess we're going to have to get that sorted pretty soon. If you
still want to do it,
I'd love to do it. Yeah.
Okay. We let's do it. I'm gonna inquire out to. I'll start with the Free Fringe, Peter Buckley Hill or Alex Thingy. Now he's gonna hate me if he's watching this. Alex, don't hate me. All right, we've got the great LUE Deck. Lou, I really can't tell you how grateful I am that you're here, and I am so excited. You're a celebrity to me, which is why I'm talking so much.
I just can't hide it.
I love both of you guys because we share a history that so few do. And most of it is the Comedy Store Sunset. Yeah. But in the end, geez, I'm not talking that much about how old I am in my act. But what I do know is I have so many great memories of the so incredible things that we shared that I'd do anything to help you guys. If you just want to play, I'll play. If you want to talk, we'll talk. But I'm happy to see both of you. I'm happy to see you're both so sarcastic.
Yep,
And
that's
for having
us.
me.
Oh, we're
Do
sarcastic.
what you must,
And
Steve.
how are we sarcastic?
Yes.
All right, we're going to do our pub quiz. Thank you, Lou. We love you. All right, here we are, pub quiz. It's hosted by the wonderful, fantastic Brian Seff in North London. Brian, what pub are we doing this from today?
This is at the Priory on Priory Road, where I sing the blues every Thursday. So
Okay,
yes,
it's in London, right?
yeah, and I have done comedy there before. In fact, I did it last Thursday. Did little snippets from my act just because I needed to stay in season with it since I'm doing it this Saturday. So anyway,
Fantastic.
okay.
Let me just before we start, let me just I was googling the pub. We're going to share that screen for a bit just so we can get into it. This is a pub quiz that takes place in 3 rounds. This is the first round. There are 3 questions each round. Brian is quizmaster, and it's co-host Stephen Allen Green versus the challenger, not that I'm a winner, versus the competitor in Los Angeles, the amazing comedian LUE DECK.
Oh.
So from the Priory Pub.
The only prize you get is the glory of winning. So,
Boy,
what more is there?
yeah, that's good enough. Okay, question number 1. Phobias. Cynophobia, that's spelled Cynophobia, is the fear of what animals?
Beatles.
Bigger. They're domestic animals.
Cyrophobia?
What'd you say, Lou?
Dog.
Dog is correct.
Oh, wow.
Yes, cynophobia is the fear of dogs. Yes. Now you know. Okay, second one. This is recent court case. 2 fans in New York are suing what singer for starting a concert over 2 hours late?
Madonna.
Madonna is the correct answer. Yes.
Who gets that point?
You came first, Stephen. So it's 1-1. Okay. Children's literature. What nationality was the title character of the 19th century classic Heidi?
Scandinavian.
More specific. Actually, Scandinavian isn't quite right anyway.
Oh.
Norway.
No, further south.
Sweden.
Further south.
Switzerland.
Switzerland. Yes, Swiss. 2-1, Stephen. Animation. What is the full name, or what's the name of the boy who owns the toys in Toy Story? All 3 of the
Woody.
toys.
Blake Clark.
Well, his name is
Jeffrey
Andy.
Epstein.
Yeah. Okay, that opened the floodgates, but that's okay. This is a good one though. Slang.
Wait, what was the answer to that?
The answer was Andy. Is the name of the kid. The
right.
one
Okay.
human that's in Toy Story. Okay, slang. While the word cool dates back to the 1300s to actually mean, somewhere between warm and cold, the word used, currently to describe anything acceptable or hip goes back to what decade of the 20th century?
50s.
A different word?
No, the same word, cool.
Oh,
when it was
Brian, yeah, Lou said the 50s. I'd say the 40s.
The 40s is the right answer. So it's 2-1, Stephen.
By the way, do we know? By the way, does it come from the jazz world?
Yeah, it was African American culture of the 40s.
Or was it
probably jazz?
Was African American culture of jazz, or just African American culture in general?
Yeah, I think probably jazz, because there was cool jazz, meaning the I don't know, the hot club of France kind of jazz.
Because I was reading about, coincidentally, I was reading about this, that the term man, you know how, hey man, you know where
Yeah.
that comes from?
This beatnik culture.
No, the same culture, the African American jazz culture,
Okay.
where they all got sick and fucking tired of being called boy by the white man.
Oh, okay.
Right, I've heard that one.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. What's the score?
It's 2-1, Stephen, and so we'll leave it there for a while.
Well, good one. I'm enjoying this, not because I'm winning at this point, but because it's just good. It's just, I don't know, my brain's working.
Yeah.
Wow, good for
I
that.
know.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Lou, you're performing. I'm sorry, Brian. Go on.
Yeah. No, I was dismissing the rest. I've got some more great questions, so we'll get
Yeah,
there.
well, the second round's going to come up soon, and we got our Nick.
I got one for you, Brian.
Okay.
Who
Go ahead.
cut Samson's hair?
Oh, it wasn't Delilah?
Nope.
Okay. That would be my only guess. So who did?
She summons a servant who is only named once in the whole Bible as the Philistine,
Okay.
and he shorn Samson's locks.
I did not know that.
Barbet.
Okay. I think I can use that. I try and throw in Bible questions from time to time.
Look it up in the Bible and see.
Okay. Do you know which book it's in?
Samson, Delilah, isn't that the Old Testament?
It probably is, yes. So probably in the first 3 or 4. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, somewhere around.
I might think Leviticus or the next one, but I'm guessing. It's just something I learned in high school in the South. And then I've seen Bibles that don't name the Philistine.
Okay.
But the trick is, if you go for the Philistine in Google, it's not mentioned anywhere else.
Good.
We think the common thought today in America is the Philistines were bad guys. Nah, they were just the guys that had the control of the very eastern Mediterranean, and they kicked ass.
Well, speaking of which, remember Lenny Bruce would use the term Philistines when talking about, what was he talking about? What was he referring to?
Would you know who the Ottomans are?
The Turks?
Yeah, those are the people that invented those little square things. You put your feet up in front of the couch.
Same area 1,000 years before.
Yeah,
Okay.
but why? Yeah, but why the disparaging?
They not for the Jewish homeland.
They what?
Were Jewish. The Philistines are not Jewish. Ergo, the animus between the Jewish people of the time and the Philistines. But the Philistines went after everybody in that end of the Mediterranean, 1600 BC ish.
So in other words, thine enemy of thy enemy is thy friend, I think is what it is.
So,
I think
after the Philistines, we might think of the civilization crashes. There are still individuals from that area, and they're called the Philistines, much as the Israeli people were called the Jews.
Okay.
So it refers to a country of origin, but mostly that's the guy in the Bible. The other,
what's funny to me is that, and I'm sure there have been improv groups that have, or troops that have thought of this, but Philistines is like, it sounds like Philistine, a teenage Jewish woman. There should be a sitcom, like, and now the Philistines, and there's all these teenage Jewish women, huh?
Starring Phyllis Silver.
Exactly, and Phyllis Silver. So go on.
I was just thinking of something you had said a couple minutes ago about the enemy of the enemy is my friend, and I flashed on this this movie I saw late night when I was in my late teens, starring Jim Reeves, the country singer, in one of his, they wanted to make him a singing cowboy like, Roy Rogers or something. And the movie's called Gentleman Jim. And he kept singing this song throughout the picture. A stranger is a friend you do not know. And I was on psychedelics at the time watching that. So that, I don't know, that stuck with me for a long time. I did finally find that record. But yeah, no story except that I was high at the time. So it's really exciting.
That's my new podcast. No story, but I was high at the time. This just in by our he's somewhere between a fan and a collaborator, Damian Fitz. LUE DECK worked with Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, and Sam Kinison, but you're talking about the Philistines. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
Good point, Damian.
You lose our guest, so he can talk about whatever the fuck he wants to.
All right, yeah, you're right. But Damian, wants to hear about,
To some point I'm trying to make. First, Brian, I love obscure facts and things. That's why I did the Samson Delilah.
Yeah.
Second, that the idea of being on a TV show, even in '74, made people come to me and say, "You're funny. You should try this funny situation." And that led me into a series of maybe 35 shows over a year in Texas. My call to fame was I am voted best act at the Luling Watermelon Thump Festival. But at the
I was up for that.
of that, I moved to LA.
Yeah, you broke up that momentum, by moving to LA.
Oh,
Where are you from? Where were you from originally, LUE DECK?
Say again.
Where'd you grow up? Where were you born and grew up?
Born in Austin, Texas.
Oh,
Grew
okay.
up on Air Force bases throughout the South, mostly Georgia. My dad was a electrical engineer for Lockheed Aircraft, and when they sold planes to the Air Force, he went out and taught them how to keep them running. So I ended up graduating, finally going to, Mom got mad and we bought a house so all the kids could go to the same high school and graduate. Northern Atlanta, Sandy Springs.
Okay.
Then I'm the third of three kids. I knew they weren't going to be able to send me to college. So I had planned to go in the Navy. Nice time to be in the Navy, 1969, 1970. And got out of Georgia.
Because you wouldn't go to Vietnam if you're in the Navy, I guess.
I was in the Navy, and I signed a contract to do something similar to what my dad did, electrical engineering. I volunteered to go on submarines. Here's a joke nobody but the two of you are going to get, because at the time, Charlie didn't have no submarines.
Charlie don't surf.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, Charlie don't surf.
I didn't get it.
What's the joke? Say it again. Oh, I thought you were introducing the joke. Say the joke.
Oh,
again?
No. I went into submarines because the Viet Cong had no submarines.
Okay.
Oh, I see. That's the joke.
Charlie. Yeah. Okay.
There's a famous quote, Charlie don't surf, from Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Charlie being the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
Forgive the phrase, gooks in the wire.
Yeah.
Vietnam talk.
What was that last part about after?
It's a racial insult. I'm reluctant to say it again. You want me to?
No, I know what the insult was, but we said something after that cut out. What it meant, I think, the translation. What?
Vietnam talk, slang from that era.
Okay. Meaning what? What does it mean?
And that's Charlie doesn't got no submarines. So there was very little chance I would face personal combat and have a choice to kill somebody.
Right. And no torpedoes then.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't even shoot the torpedoes. So,
Yeah.
Lou, first of all, I thank you for your service.
Crazy stuff. But I went in the Navy to get the GI Bill to go to college.
What did you study in college?
Radio, TV, and film. That's why they threw me into public access.
And that's that probably helped. Like I remember when I first came to the Comedy Store in '81, you were kind of looking after the video archives,
Well, it was
you
Mr. Video from 78 to 85.
right, and
I
they,
had 3 different offices, which
yeah,
means I had all the tape and all the equipment. Here's a story that you two will know. I'm sitting in Robert Aguayo and Danny Mora's comedy classes in the main room, moved from Sunset on a Sunday,
hmm,
and Danny is called from the class to talk to Mitzi. Mitzi has just gone out and spent $5,000 on video equipment. And she talked to Danny before, and he said, we ought to do video at the store, not having any training. Danny immediately marches back into the Heck and Deck was in the group. I think you were in the group, Stephen. Danny Mora's workshops.
Yeah, I did them a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, "Lou, come with me." They marched me out to right in front of the kitchen door by the main room door and the belly room stairs. And there's 6, 7 boxes there. And Mitzi says, "Whoa, Danny says you know how to run video." Well,
yeah,
I guess that's what I did in college. What did you do in college? Radio, TV, and film. Can you run it?
yeah, you,
Looked at the stuff for a minute or two before I said yes. I said yes. She says, hook it up. I have it hooked up and running in 8 minutes, and I'm shooting her. Suddenly, Comedy Store has a video department.
You know, I remember this. And I've talked on previous shows.
For Mitzi's chosen stand-ups. We shoot your set, we go talk about it and watch it. We take you in the next room and shoot the next set with adjustments.
yep. They shot a bunch of footage of Rick and Ruby.
Oh, I shot a bunch of footage of Rick and Ruby.
Yeah, you would have done it. We did about a 45-minute set, and
we loved you. But the point is, because I had decided to go in the Navy, and in the Navy I was exposed to video and some film, and went and did it in college, and then they thought I was funny, and then I'm at the Comedy Store. I went from being one of the 20 or 30 open micers of my period to having an office at the Comedy Store, and now she's going to move me to Sunset. I've been hosting in Westwood, but now I get to host at Sunset. It was an incredible break.
You know, I remember I've talked. I think it's a great story, and I think this is one of the things that I wish the Comedy Store did. You know, and it's no saying they can't. The video room which you set up, which I remember distinctly, that room. That room. Just you exit the kitchen, you go into that little hallway that has the stairs up to Mitzi's office. And just to the left of you is the Pac-Man machine, and straight ahead is the door to the video room. Well, that is now the paid regular bar.
VIP room, they say.
What?
The VIP room?
Yeah, it's a VIP room, right? But I mean, your office. So what I'm trying to say is, I was talking to, I forget her name, God bless her, the bartender there a year or two ago, and I said, you know, because the walls were blank. Beautiful place. I love what they did. It was kind of like the Formosa Cafe. I love the design, and they kept the traditional Mitzi, you know, shiny black and red and all that. I said, why aren't there photos? Maybe someone should put photos of all the waitresses that have been here, because they've all had personalities, interesting personalities.
Deborah Winger was there,
and then Deborah Winger, and then Karen Wyeth, and people who went on to become stand-ups or movie stars. Yeah, and she thought it was a good idea. And I think the same thing, the history of the Comedy Store, including you, being, if it wasn't for you, let me explain to the people in the audience here. Give me a moment of time here, folks. Back in the day when we were doing comedy in the 80s, there was not an internet. And if you wanted to get known beyond just local buzz, if you had local buzz, you had to get on national television, whether it was the networks with Johnny Carson preferably, or later in the 80s, HBO, which was a bigger deal because you're getting a special, not just 7 minutes on The Tonight Show or 6 minutes. In order to get people to have a buzz about you, in order to get an agent to come down and see you, in order to get a casting director, in order to get a booker, in order to get any of the tool people, I would call them, they're not tools, but people who can bridge us from being nobodies to somebody's working, you needed evidence that you were doing well, that you killed at the Comedy Store. And the only way to document that, because we did not have phone cameras and you weren't allowed to bring in your own video camera there, was count on this guy to film you, LUE DECK. And that tape has led, the quality of that tape and the care that he put into it and the craftsmanship and this isn't a guy who's like, oh, well, I'll do the video, but I want to get on stage too. He had no insecurities. He left all a personal agenda to do this job professionally, just like a soldier or a sailor going into war to protect America. He did that to help each comedian. He got paid, yeah, but it wasn't about getting rich. So without LUE DECK, there are probably 2 or 3 dozen working comedians and comedy stars that were helped significantly by having someone document the evidence that they were good, great, in front of a live audience, send that tape over, drop it off, at the front desk of the agent that's looking for new talent, and you get signed, and then they come and see you, and then they bring casting people and producers, and then you get development deals offered to you for $350,000. I'm telling you, LUE DECK is absolutely the key element, along with Mitzi Shore and Bud Friedman and Bob Fisher. But I'm saying at the Comedy Store and Mike Lacey, at the comedy and
let's just run down the list. Yeah.
I'm just telling you how important it is. And kids today don't understand this because they bring their phone, they film their set. And by the way, I'll get off this now. But by the way,
Instagram, yes,
yeah. Let me ask you this, because I have writing clients, then they send me links. We have private sessions, and I look at their set, and inevitably, and I'm not blaming them, but inevitably, it's hard to hear. There's an echoey. The camera's in the back. The audience is laughing forward of the camera. Did you have those issues when you were recording comedians?
Well, there was 2 choices. You string a line mic, not to the mic the comic uses, but to right in front of him, the center of the crowd. And you drop it so it just hangs on a wire. That's your audio input, choice 1. The other choice is using the microphone on the video to capture the whole ambience of the room. 2 totally.
You couldn't do both at the same time?
Yeah, well, no, one or the other. And I tended to find out which show wanted ambient sound, which show wanted line mic, and almost all of them chose ambient because they wanted to. So many videos are faked. If you get a tight shot of the comic, you hear good laughter, but there are 12 people there.
Have you ever recorded a comedian and they do a killer set, you get it perfectly, but it just at the wrong punchline or the right punchline, a customer walks by and asks a waitress standing there where the bathrooms are, and so you hear that person's voice over the comedians. Did that ever happen?
Ambient sound conquers, whether it's a siren going past, a waitress dropping something, or someone stepping in front of your camera. The easy solution is choose a point that can't be interfered with. If you remember, my spot was right by the wall in the main room, above Mitzi's booth, one table over.
Of course.
By that top.
That's where you set up. Where you set up to record us.
Yes, exactly.
But in the original room, you recorded in the original room too, didn't you?
Certainly.
Yeah.
You had there. After they were stars, they had people come in and shoot stuff for shows. I didn't do that. But the tapes from the Comedy Store, yes, I shot out. When Mitzi said turn the camera on, I did. And when she wasn't looking, I turned the camera on several times too.
And where did you set the camera? Is it the space between the back walkway and the men's restroom that had?
Follow my steps. You're standing in the doorway to the main room from the kitchen.
No,
They're
I mean
making-
in the original room.
No. Oh, you're talking where in the original room?
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking main room. Where in the original room is dead center right behind the main light, 2 feet inside the door from the waitress stairs.
Would you have to
Okay.
remove tables?
Sometimes I move tables. Sometimes I just put the shorter tripod on and set it on the table, depending on
Who's
the
the most famous?
What-
Who's the most
what-
famous? Who's the most famous comedian you filmed when they were unknown, who became famous?
Officially or unofficially?
Sorry, what?
I mean,
I was asked to film many people. I did film some extra people without their permission or the Comedy Store's permission, and those
Ooh.
tapes in unhidden.
and were there some future stars?
I started videoing in Westwood in '77. That's how they knew about it. There's a very famous black and white tape of the best of then. Let's see, think about it. Argus hosting, George Miller, The Graduates, Samuels and Cohen, Letterman. Then
You filmed Letterman?
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause he was emceeing a lot back then too, wasn't he?
that's true too. But this was just one of those days. You were mentioning how important it was for certain shows. Let's not forget the Merv Griffin show, the Mike Douglas show, the
Right.
Dinah Shore show,
Right.
the show that killed Jeff Altman,
Pink Lady.
the Pink Ladies and Jeff.
Yeah.
He took the comic role in a variety show hosted by 2, I'm thinking, Japanese ladies who were wonderful singers, but imagine the image, 2 twins singing together,
And they didn't speak very good English at all.
and the sketches were pretty bad.
No, it was more
So-
like Tony Orlando and 2 Gracies.
Yeah, close. That's pretty close. At any rate, there were a lot of other shows that came to Westwood to scout because they didn't want to deal with Mitzi, or they were on this side of town. They scouted in Westwood Comedy Store too. So at some point, somebody walks in with a camera. I have to go over and say no shooting. This is this, that, and those. I take it back to Mitzi. They're from the Merv Griffin show. They have their producer come over and sit with Mitzi. They get to shoot. The next night, I'm standing there with my equipment, and they assumed I had the same permission. So
Was there ever a battle? Was there
I
ever?
have a great tape in the main room of I have just shot an act. I think it was Argus. I had just shot an act, and no, it might have been Binder. And then the next act on is Leno.
Hmm.
And that's so I go over, I turn the tape off. I say to myself, that's Jade goddamn Leno on the stage. And I turn the tape back on. As soon as I step up and focus to where he is, because it was different where Binder was, different stage placing. Leno looks at me from 22 feet, it's not that far from the stage to where I kept my camera, and says, "Lou, don't you record me." I said, "Okay." I bent down, I knocked on the tape recorder, didn't turn it off, and walked away.
Well, we're going to walk away from this deck. We're going to walk. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm having some trouble. I appreciate all that. We're going to walk away. Our producers in the control room are constantly texting me because we're running late on our schedule, and
Sorry.
we need our theme, our next segment, Nicked. We'll be right back with Nicked with LUE DECK. Okay, this is Nick. Now, nicked is a segment. Nicked being the British slang for stolen. I think it's more like casually stolen, like pickpocketed. Anyway, nicked is a segment. We talk about comedians who have either consciously, purposefully, or unconsciously, accidentally, or coincidentally have done another comedian's material. We're not going to name any names except There's a couple of comedians that are famous for stealing, going back to Milton Berle. I'm not going to name the modern ones, but let's talk about this because it's always interesting. Try not to name any names. It's more the story that's interesting anyway. I never have anything to contribute to this segment, so I just introduce it, and Brian or you get started on it.
Okay,
Nick,
I'm gonna yield to Lou because he probably saw so much comedy over those
good point.
years that something must jar your memory.
Well, quite a bit. First, let's define the offense. Stealing a joke. First, jokes are not units of literary or legal measure. There's no protection for the word joke. Lyric, yes. Sonata, yes. A poem, yes. Joke, no. Now, you can enclose jokes in copyrighted material and get it copyrighted, but there is no legal nor emotional name of stealing a joke. In the essence, all comics come from where we saw our first funny people. So we're all derivatives of what we learned growing up. Second, that's where jokes are. I just want to make that unequivocal. There is no protecting jokes. I've had jokes stolen from, let's say, less than honest stand-ups or scum, and there's nothing you can do. I work 60 cities a year. I haven't got time to chase this guy that works 12. But the rule is, I confront him the first time and say, they tell me you're doing my joke. Don't do it or I'm going to hit you in the nose. The second time, hit him in the nose.
Yeah.
The third time, threatened to hit him in the nose. The fourth time, hit him again. But there's no...
Yeah, but let me ask you this, because violence is not my favorite thing. And certainly I am very much against violence against women. So have there been any female comics that have stolen from each other, or has there ever been a cross gender theft of comedy, a male comic stealing from a female comic or vice versa?
I've got it.
Sure.
Brian has something here. Brian.
There was a female comic that Mitzi hired in the mid 80s. There was a possibility that she was shagging Argus, but anyway, because Argus recommended her, and Mitzi made her a paid regular, and she was stealing from some of the other comics, and
from the male comics or from the female comics?
She stole a joke from Alan Stephen apparently, and he went to her and said,
down.
He went to her and said, you just did my joke. And her response was, oh, it's an old joke. And he said,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It's a joke because I've been telling it for 12 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he eventually got his revenge, and he told Mitzi, I want you to watch this act and just see what you booked. And Mitzi pretty much fired her that night. Because
sounds familiar.
Yeah, she did find other places to work, but just not the store.
Agreed. The key phrase there is Alan got his revenge.
Yeah,
and if you know Alan Stephen,
yeah,
we've had him on the show before.
He's going to get his revenge.
Yeah, no, I respect that.
Okay,
I respect that. Totally respect that. And there's the thing. Here's the thing, Lou. Let me ask you this. Because there's no system. With screenwriting, you can register a screenplay with the Writers Guild of America, and you can basically protect yourself. Although there are certain limitations. But with joke writing, there really is no protection. It's just been kind of run on two things. Sort of like the word in the 80s when I was there was that whoever gets it on television first, doing it on television somehow copyrights it, gives it to them, even if they've stolen it.
Agreed.
Right? And that's unfair. Agreed. And, the management companies would go to the comic who was broke and who was stolen from and say, we're sorry, but we'll hire you to write for our show. That kind of thing. That stuff went on. But the other thing is there is some sort of omerta, the agreed upon silent agreement of the mafia between competing mafia gangs and families. And it's just, you don't do that. I mean, the crass explanation is don't shit where you eat. But
Yes.
the comics wouldn't defend themselves.
I think it's don't eat where you shit. But
Moral
anyway,
comedians. What, Brian?
I think it's don't eat where you shit.
I agree.
Well, I do shit where I eat. If the restroom. Don't eat where you shit. Yeah, right.
Let me jump in and just try to again make this a logical argument. If I said a famous line from a poem and claimed it as mine and you knew it wasn't mine, yeah, I'm using his stuff. But that's a poem. The only reason any of us know it is they wrote it down and copyrighted it. They don't write down jokes and copyright them except in certain situations.
Yeah, if they put it on an album or
Right.
then
But
that's
even then, it's questionable, well, who had it first?
Right.
Steve, you were close. The saying in the 80s was whoever gets it to Carson first owns it. Because now it's
Right.
identified with him. And even if you own the joke, you're going to be they're going to think you're stealing from him.
This is one of the reasons why I tweet my jokes on occasion, because I know it's going to have a timestamp on it. And yes, I've had jokes.
Absolutely. Didn't
Right.
exist in our age. But
Right.
again, you're talking a mythical offense versus a real offense. Now, can you tell me exactly what you were thinking for every joke that you tell on stage when you thought it and wrote it down and preserved it? Remember, it's not remembering a joke, it's writing a joke. That I'm not even sure typing a joke would qualify, but
No,
in
I basically, if I was put under the spotlight and interrogated, I more than likely, if I knew what year it was created, and remind me of what I was doing at the time, what city I was living in, what I was dealing with, that would bring back a flood of memories, because I know I can look at a joke and dissect.
a good joke. But let me take this further, Steve. So
Sure.
You're the first case. You can remember. I'm a technician. I'm not talented. I'm the least talented comic you're ever going to meet from the Comedy Store. But boy, did they teach me some skills. And so, Steve, I'm like you. I remember the stuff. Brian, do you remember what you were thinking when you wrote all the stuff in your act?
Well, I rarely wrote stuff down. I would just I would be tooling around, maybe driving in the car. I'd hear something on the radio.
Someone's telephone's going. Hang on.
Yeah.
Is that yours, Lou?
I'm trying to turn it off.
Well, just answer it. Then we can have that drama.
I did. Hello. Not now.
What are they trying to sell?
Again. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a point I'm trying to make. Damn it.
And I was trying to tell my point too of
Go ahead.
but mine was that I didn't usually write stuff down. I just would be driving in the car, hear something on the radio, and say, "Oh, I got an idea. Oh, I can try it out tonight. I've got a spot." So that's really, in those first few years I was working the store, I was running through material pretty fast, and each year there'd be a lot of stuff that would just be hits of a certain year, and when that year passed, I'd just say, "Okay, we start all over." And
Let me ask you
about
both.
that, Brian. It was absolutely wowing. We thought you were a guitar guy, a 5-joke, 2-parody guitar guy, and you were so much more.
Thank you. Yeah,
the question I'm asking is, we remember, some don't.
Let me ask you. Yeah, Lou, can you hear me? Lou, I'm co-hosting. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to throw in to add to the point here, Brian or Lou. Have you ever invented a joke and then tried it out on stage, and then you find out probably from some comic telling you, "Oh, that's so and so's joke"?
Yes. Happens to each one of us 30 times a week. no matter where you are on the comic spectrum, you have 30 thoughts a week that the rest of us have. The metaphor is the premise is the stream, and we're all having to cross the stream and step on the same stones. So, of course, this very same premise comes up on easy jokes.
Yeah,
Then
anything about
take two
anything
more
about the
steps,
bump? Yeah.
and the male viewpoint comes up on the premise, and we all step on those spots. Now, if the easier joke it is, the more people will get it or write it.
Mhm.
Then, if it's an easy joke, whoever gives it to media first wins.
Mhm.
Amongst live performers with reputations, if you tell somebody you were doing a joke 2 or 3 weeks before he was doing the same joke, as a pro, I would say, I wrote an easy joke. A lot of people have been there, and I get rid of it or rewrite it, making it personal to me.
Yeah, see, I don't think it's fair that I have to say this. I mean, I really think it's unfair, completely unfair of whoever got it on Carson first owns it, because that basically is encouraging people to steal jokes, and
Steve,
I don't agree with that. I think whoever wrote it owns it. It's just proving
Steve,
it. Pardon me?
Yeah,
LUE
go
Deck in the front row.
I think. I just want to say, you've been around just as long as me. Did you ever really ever think stand-up comedy as a lifestyle and an art form and a vocation was fair? No, it's not. It's brutal show business. Only the strong survive.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
right
but
stories come
if this
if
is the
you were
crux of,
placed like enough.
excuse me, if this is the crux of your philosophy, then we have to really disagree here, because I say, yeah, you're right. It's like, on one level, you're absolutely right. It's not fair. It's showbiz. It's like life. People in other fields in the world, whether they're, taking a test to be a registered nurse or a teacher or a paramedic or something really important compared to comedians. Someone might steal their answers or their homework or their essay or whatever it is. But that's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from, why force, if that's the case, if the rule is basically, a gunslinging Western shootout world, which is what you're describing in my eyes,
Mhm.
then you're going to have some people self-deputized, because let me personalize this. I was in fear when I was at the Comedy Store. I got threatened by comedians physically. I got blackmailed by comedians for trying to save someone from drug death, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of us, we're collateral damage at the Comedy Store because of someone else's shady dealings. Okay, I accept that, and to rise above it, and the audience is the key. But you've still got, you still can't. Once we make that acceptable, that whoever gets it on Netflix first, let's make it a modern analogy. Brian writes a joke, does it for a year, excuse me, throughout London. Somebody hears about it and gets a special on Netflix and does it, not just a joke, but a chunk. And, he would be upset, and anybody would be. And we're talking about intellectual property.
yeah.
So I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
I was upset when people were sending me this video of that clown called Puddle's Pity Party, and he does a bit that by the time I saw the video, I'd been doing this bit for about 20 years
that's right.
Of the Folsom Prison, the Folsom Prison words with the Folsom Prison melody with the lyrics to Pinball Wizard, because they fit.
But on my show at the Palladium, you did that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, since I own the rights to it, or not, at least it's not,
Yeah.
let me see if I can find it right now.
But but Puddle's Pity Party put it on YouTube, and it got millions of views. And he's a big star in Vegas.
Yeah, but we can prove by the nature of this video that you created it and did it on stage.
Yeah, I'd been doing it for about 10 years by then.
So I think you got a lawsuit going, but who wants to do that?
Yeah, he's got bigger, bigger lawyers behind him.
Why? How tall? All of his lawyers dressed like clowns.
He's just a big attraction in Vegas, so he's got the money to and I've seen interviews with him where he said, "Yeah, somebody gave that to me in Atlanta."
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and let's see, did I never played Atlanta doing that bit, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, that was a shame to see that. And, so when I would do the bit in the clubs, I'd have to say, well, excuse me, I did this bit first. If you've seen this Puddles Pity Party, I was doing it a long time before he came around. So don't think I stole it from him.
I'm just trying to find. Oh, this is just plain fucking ridiculous. Why is it doing that? Oh, this is a keyboard problem I'm having. Anyway, I was going to show that clip of you at the London Palladium doing that bit. Damian Fitz from Sandusky, Ohio, writes in, did Lou know Jim McCauley? I'm sure the answer is yes. If so, what lesson should today's comedians know from him and The Tonight Show? Let's clarify before you answer that. Jim McCauley was one of the two or three, the most powerful television people in comedy. He decided who was on The Tonight Show, and he developed your act for The Tonight Show. He picked you out just by being there at the night at the Comedy Store, the Improv, or the Ice House, or the Laugh Factory. He decided who got on The Tonight Show. So, Lou, did you know Jim McCauley?
Yes, I did. Wonderful guy.
Okay, great. That closes our segment about did Lou know Jim McCauley?
Yep, that answers Damien's question. So,
tell us more. I'm joking.
First, let's define his role. He was the talent coordinator for comedians for The Tonight Show for 11 years, I think. And he lasted longer in the job than Peter LaSalle, who was a very close friend of Carson's, because he took a methodical look at it. And then he and Carson agreed on certain things, and Jim would surprise him from time to time with exceptional situations. But
did Jim have autonomy of booking, or did it have to get approved by LaSalle and Carson?
And the Cordoba. But after 10 successes, they started trusting him.
Mm. Yeah,
so
that would
he had a wonderful run, and basically he would hang down at the back of the original room by the stairs where I was commanded to sit as the doorman and watch until the person he wanted to see come up. And then one night he's standing around. I say, you can have my chair because I have to go tape Argus. Argus is on 2 acts in front of the act he came to see. We tape Argus. We scramble down the back of the original room, down almost a U-turn into the basement. My first office, the Comedy Channel, Mitzi and I incorporated as Comedy Channel in '78. Well, she did, and I helped.
Mm-hmm.
But then I immediately set the tape up and rewinded, and now Argus, less than 5 minutes after he's off stage, is watching a tape of what he just did. And down comes the steps Mr. Talent Coordinator of the universe of Hollywood, Jim McCauley. Lou, what are you doing? I says, oh, we just taped Argus. He says, can I watch? And I looked at Argus, and Argus says, no. And I said, sure, come on in. But what it did was expose what he and I were doing to what McCauley wanted, and we were remarkably close. So Argus leaped ahead that night by 6 months.
Interesting story. Here's something that I perceived, and Craig Tennis was the talent coordinator before McCauley for years, and he was more of that era of discovering Steve Martin and bringing on George Carlin and Albert Brooks and Martin Mull. My question is this. I remember a time in the 80s when comics who were thinking of getting on the Tonight Show, to have a career boost, started thinking in terms of what kind of act did Jim McCauley like? What,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And,
Yes.
do you know what those qualities or characteristics were? Was it to appeal to middle America? Was it to not be too brainy? I'm not trying to be insulting here.
Or to be too political, even.
Or be too politically, certainly clean.
One doesn't walk on the Tonight Show and steal Carson's shine. So a lot of great political acts never were considered because they would be funny politically more than Johnny.
Yeah, but then how did Argus get on there?
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
But I'm thinking of the time Mark Russell, the guy that sat at the piano in Washington, D.C., and did endless political stuff.
Right.
San Francisco comic Will
Durst. Yeah, he went on Letterman and did politics, and they never had him back.
Well,
Really?
I mean, that's Letterman. And you don't know why he had him back. Jave had 16 reasons he didn't want you back. But where I'm coming from is, if you ask me what Jim McCauley from the comic coordinator from the Tonight Show wanted in the 80s and 90s, it was simple. Laughs per minute.
How many laughs per minute?
3 minimum, 6 maximum, 2 sets at least.
And probably the first one within the first 10 seconds.
Depends on the act.
Yeah, depends if the act is a character act, you might
right now. I know that rule. I've lived by that rule for 45 years. I strike for my first laugh within 10 seconds of them saying my name.
Yeah.
Did the Comedy Store ever have a workshop on how to, mold your act to get on television?
Many. You went to one of them with Robert Aguayo, Uncle Bobby, and Danny Mora. Sandy Shore taught for years and years. Greg Dean taught for years and years. I taught for a couple of years.
But specifically that thing, right?
Well, depends on who you are and what kind of teacher you are and what you're trying to get across. I'm a technique coach.
Go on, I'm sorry.
I'm a technique coach because I learned the techniques that made you successful to get you into media in the 80s and 90s and 2000s.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at the same time, this whole thing with Jim McCauley and Tonight Show and this sort of, it's really a square peg, square hole scenario you've got to adhere to get the job. At the same time, HBO was coming up, gurgling up from underground. And HBO, comedy run by the great Chris Albrecht, who I casually knew when he was the comedy agent in ICM.
Michael
Fuchs, Albrecht and Fuchs created this incredible alternative universe where you didn't have to worry about language, subject matter, topic, intellect. You weren't limited to 6 minutes. I don't know all the rules, but basically a 1 hour long comedy special. I believe Robert Klein got the first one.
56 minutes.
56 minutes.
Yep.
So that's
55-6.
Yeah, we
want to run
55-6.
This before that Rick and Ruby was on maybe the second or third HBO Young Comedian special, and that was our first time on stage at the Comedy Store. They recorded it there.
Wow!
Welcome to the big time.
Yep, that's where Mitzi saw us. She's like, "Oh, when are you guys going to move to LA?" We hadn't.
She loved you guys.
Yeah, totally.
We had Oingo Boingo before you, and they were too far out. You were exactly right what she loved. No shit. And I thought you were a guitar act. Turns out you're a stand-up holding a guitar. Who'd have knew?
Yeah, well, that's quite a tribute because I got lumped in with
you too, Steve.
With the other guitar hack acts, and I saw quite a few of them over the years. Thankfully, we were never on the same bill, but I took pride in the fact that I knew more about music than anybody else that was posing as a music comedy act. So,
and you know how we felt about that? The comics at the store, the music store is right down the street. This is the Comedy Store. We don't care how good you are unless you're funny. Then you showed us you were funny. Anything you do. Remember Bob Saget?
Yeah,
Of course.
he used to do music.
Steve, I'm gonna need your help. Guitar act, blonde guy with a mustache, Denny.
Johnson.
Yes.
Denny
Guitar
Johnson.
act, Tom Sharp.
Johnston. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Sharp.
Guitar act,
Tom Sharp.
Saget.
Yep.
Guitar act.
Tom
First
Wilson.
off, Macaulay at the Tonight Show doesn't like guitar acts because Carson doesn't like guitar acts.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how good you are, Johnny don't like it. Johnny also doesn't like sound effects comics because he had Charlie Callis and he wanted to keep the category just to Charlie Callis.
Interesting.
So what a comic coordinator looks for his TV show is an agreement between the person that makes the decisions and the stars. Then he has very little choice except to follow their guidelines. Once he follows their guidelines, he gets more flexibility about who he can promote.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Jim McCauley was a star back then because of this in the comedy circuit. Everyone knew Jim McCauley. Everybody wanted to get on the Tonight Show. I can't think of one person today. I mean, there are certainly comics more in the know than me who work the Comedy Store, the Improv, the Ice House, Laugh Factory, who knows who the comedy booker is for Netflix, for example, or maybe they don't. But I haven't heard any of these names. I don't know if anyone knows, and because of the way the internet is structured, I think it's become really secretive who is the person behind success.
Last person whose name I knew of that did that stuff was, well, Eddie Brill with David Letterman show, and then Jim Brogan with when Leno was hosting.
Right.
I read Eddie Brill stuff every day. He's a good guy on top of being a good comic.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Yeah.
But let me address what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes,
is getting a job to perform comedy for money is a brutal experience. Only the brave and the scarred need apply.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Steve, Brian, if you want a job, don't figure out who gives the job and make him your friend.
I like it.
I said at the start of the show, it comes to the joy of life. I can't believe I won't spend this long on the telephone. I can't believe you kept my attention and my interest for all this time, but we share so much that this I knew would be joyful. I only do at this phase of my life what is joyful. God knows life is suffering enough, ask Buddha. But enlightenment comes from getting around most of the suffering. Again, I'm going to tell you there's no protection for jokes. If you hear somebody's doing you a joke, you got to confront him emotionally yourself. There is no legal remedy. Now, third, Leno has always said the only way to protect yourself from stealing jokes is to write more damn jokes. It's an evolution of a process that is ongoing and ever present. Write jokes. When somebody takes 1/1,000,000th, it doesn't mean as much as they take 1/100th or 1/10th. So mass produce from your voice.
You got to take it from. There's more where that came from.
There's more where that came from. It's time to do the last pub quiz. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, Brian, what's the score?
It's 2-1, Stephen.
Okay, we're not going to have time to do a third one, so it's all going to be about this round.
Okay.
Hopefully, because there's an even amount of questions, we can still win.
Okay.
First question.
Well, we're talking about comics. Celebrity couples is the category. Which American comedian actor fathered a child with the Spice Girl Melanie B? She was Scary Spice in 2007, only admitting it 2 months after the child was born. Very famous American, African American. I just said African American.
Comedian, African American comedian.
Comedian and actor, yes.
God, I have no clue.
Oh, Damian Fitz just got it.
Oh, did he? Let me get through those comments here. Eddie Murphy. Oh, wow, and I didn't know that.
My first thought, but I didn't know.
Well, I guess, wait a minute. Now, Damien should get a point. So if he gets the next two questions, he wins, right, Damien? Okay, Damien's in.
Give Damien a point. Okay.
Come on, Lou.
Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom.
The laughing jackass is the nickname for what bird native to Australia?
Kookaburra.
That's the one. Kookaburra.
Oh,
2 to
wow, never
2.
heard of that one.
Okay.
What's the score?
It's 2 to 2.
At 2 to 2 and 1. Damien's
2 to
playing.
2 and 1. So, okay.
Final question of the quiz. Are we doing, is this the final question?
Yeah, this could be the tiebreaker.
Well, okay, final question.
All right. The town, film settings is the category. The town of Hill Valley, a fictional town in California of Hill Valley, is the basic setting for which film franchise? That had several films in the series.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is the right answer.
Wow.
There you go.
I started with E.T. when you said Hill Valley. Then I went, anyway, it wasn't a franchise. Well done, Lou. So Lou wins, correct?
Lou wins, unless there's a further tiebreaker. But yeah, final score: Lou 3, Stephen 2, Damien 1.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to
Great
Lou,
showing, Damien.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damien, for participating.
He got a hard one.
Next week on Comedy Dish, January 31st, we have comedian Dan Madonia, really great comedian. And then, not that I'm not or you're not a great comedian, I'm just saying he's really a good guy.
Yeah,
and then February 7th, we have British comedian Adrian Doherty, or Doty. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, his surname, but that's our show. Anything you want to plug, Lou, before we go out?
I'm plugless, but I have a parting thought, if you don't mind, very quickly.
We have a few minutes left, actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead. Take your time.
I've been around a long time in stand-up. I've been luckier than anybody I know. It's mostly the right place and the right time. I can smell the right place. That's why I was at the Comedy Store. That's why I was on tour in the 90s. This is the right place and the right time. What I know from my long life is that it's the joy you remember. It's the feeling you admittedly bring to yourself on purpose. If anybody out there that sees this that feels happy and is joyful to share this with my friends as I am, you're on the way to getting it started. I'm kind of like Endorphin Man. I want to show you how to motivate and channel your own neurotransmitters and be happy. Guys, I'm happy to be with you today. Thanks so much. It's my privilege.
Was that your music that was playing?
It's me playing a trick. Never mind.
Not me.
LUE DECK, God bless you. God bless your sweet soul, LUE DECK. Thank you so much. I'll be seeing you around the.
Dude.
And Brian, when are you doing the King's Head? You're playing the King's Head this Saturday?
This Saturday, the 27th.
Did you know who you're on the bill with?
There's the compere is Charmaine Hughes, and one of the acts, the only other act that I'm familiar with is Tim Clark, who's doing a regular set. He used to compare everything back in the day, but yeah, he's doing a full set. And I'm going to try and corral him and see if he can be on our show sometime in the next month or so.
Great.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. I'm just getting the King's Head webpage up here. Yes, I accept cookies, although in England we call them biscuits.
Yes.
Let me. By the way, Lou, if you ever get to London, and I'm sure it'll happen, I could definitely, most likely, wrangle you a spot there. It's my home club to consider it. King's Head downstairs, the King's Head in Crouch End. I'm having trouble reading, by the way, because my keyboard and my laptop spilled apple juice over it.
That's the one. Okay, Thursday.
That's what?
25. You're almost there.
Should I scroll down?
There I am. Yeah, that's it.
Yay.
Which one? Saturday, 27th?
Yeah, you just passed it.
Yeah, no, I see it. Let me enlarge it. Hang on. I'm working with. It's hard for me to read the screen because I'm using an external keyboard because I had a problem. But come on now.
Yeah.
There it is. Right down here. Right here.
Yeah. Back up a little bit.
Back up.
Or scroll it upwards. There. Keep going.
No, I see it right there. You don't see it? No, you're wrong. It's right. It's right here, man.
Oh, okay. Well,
you can't see that.
No, I'm seeing just there now at the very top of the screen. There it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I don't see
Great,
it.
great club. My favorite club of all time, with deference to the Comedy Store in the old days. But just really, what a lovely place. And just, I tell you the thing I have to say about playing the King's Head, and I did it my entire time when I was in England. You feel, and Rick, maybe you can, you feel like all the troubles and worries about showbiz, not just the world, but all your concerns about showbiz, as long as you're professional, funny, and you act professionally and you act kind, it's just such an escape, such a world of its own, uh, that you just feel like you've made it, not because of any, oh, I've made it, I'm big time now. It's not even that. It's,
More,
you know what I mean?
more importantly, it's just there's a relaxed feeling in that room that you don't get in very many places, and I described it once on Comedy Dish as an extension of your living room, a larger
Yeah.
version, because
It's
the
like,
people
Uncle Peter is there. Uncle Peter who runs it,
or
and
Aunt Georgina. at
yeah,
this
yeah.
point.
No, I know that there's, but it's Pete. Yeah, I'm just going by my own memory, but yeah.
Yep.
And anyway, that's going to be our show. Next week is Dan Donia, and thank you again, Lou Deck. And Damian Fitz says, excellent thanks. Thank you, Damian Fitz. Invite Damian Fitz to join us every Comedy Dish he can make and be one of, maybe. What do you think about that idea, Brian? He'd be one of the
He can play the quiz. He
right?
came up with
Yeah,
that answer before anyone else did. So
I put this on my resume.
yes,
yes, if you're inclined to, if it's going to help you get in with Jim McCauley. Anyway, Lou Deck, thank you very much. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen, from Los Angeles to London. We thank you all very, very much. It means a lot. And have a great week. Don't forget to be funny. Don't forget to take things lightheartedly as you can. And we love you all. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Great.
Let's do the
Bye,
group
everyone.
wave.
See you later.
Group wave. Wave, Lou. Wave, Lou. There you go.
I'm still waving.
We're all waving.
It's Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and